All right. It's about to start coming in, the news about the potential sales for Call of Duty so far. Now, I don't know how soon we're going to get any metrics. However, Game Over 30 on Twitter, shout out to you, posted a small snapshot of Call of Duty and its current peak. If you look at the time of posting this, about 303,000 people playing Call of Duty as a whole on Steam. Now, when we say Call of Duty, notice I haven't said anything about Black Ops 6 because that is also going to be put in the Call of Duty launcher, which is a platform. So the way they do it now, apparently, they just basically jam everything together. But again, I think the best conclusion that you can pretty much make is that if you look at the way it spikes up, you can already tell that Black Ops 6 is responsible for the uptick in terms of players. Now, this is not even considering the other parameters that you need to, take into account when it comes down to this whole conversation. Parameters like, for example, the players who are playing via Xbox Game Pass. That's one major parameter because if many of you don't really think that Game Pass is really making Call of Duty, much more accessible, then I don't know what else to tell you because I've seen a lot of Call of Duty skeptics. Even one played for 30 minutes, which to me is bigger than the 0 minutes that people like I have been engaging in Call of Duty for many, many years. Like, after Advanced Warfare, I haven't touched the Call of Duty since then. I think Ghost was the one that I remember enjoying the campaign. And from what I've played so far, I thought it was actually quite decent. I mean, it was Call of Duty, as usual. But I think that's just one way to look at the metrics. The next way that you can take it into account, or I guess the second way, like I said, using Steam to be able to pull Steam DB numbers and then looking at Game Pass. But Game Pass now, is broken down a little bit. I mean, think about it. This is where the ecosystem, I think, is shining with a very big game. Because you have Game Pass for console users who I'm sure if they're Xbox people who are out there who thought, man, maybe I don't, usually play Call of Duty, or maybe Christmas hasn't shown up yet. So my copy of Call of Duty is probably what the fiance is going to buy for me for a Christmas gift, or what, the spouse is going to get for me, or what I intend on getting for myself, say maybe for Thanksgiving break. Well, I can just dial into Game Pass depending on where I am. So the console, Game Pass user, and then even the PC Game Pass user has access to the game for a small subscription fee. Now, when you talk about even the sales so far on the Xbox platform, and even through the Call of Duty Xbox launcher that is going to gain conversions. Because yes, you have an online account. I don't really know how everything is set up, so people will choose to buy wherever it is that they want. They can go ahead and buy, say, the upgraded edition and continue to play the game on this platform if they want, or they could buy the full edition. Many people don't believe it. I don't know what it is. I think when we were having these conversations about Game Pass, a lot of people pretended like there's not a buy button in Game Pass where you can actually buy any game that you see. They always called it some kind of name: Poor Pass, Welfare Pass. People are conditioned to not paying for games, and I always kind of thought, these folk can't really be serious. They must be trolling at some point. So there will be those sales at the end of the day. Now comes the big dog. Y'all know who I'm talking about, PlayStation. The biggest funder of all of Xbox's dreams, the fuel, and the biggest financing operation from the console side to Xbox. Ladies and gentlemen, behold the 60 million strong PlayStation 5 and the 100+ million strong PlayStation 4, of which Call of Duty is available on PlayStation 4. I'm scrolling a little bit through my bookmarks because I got to bookmark this data, man. I don't want it to be out of my reach because I know I always almost need it. And this is just a snapshot because, again, if we did a quick visit to Matt Piscatella's LinkedIn page, I'm not certain that we are going to be surprised. I think we're going to see the exact same thing. And if you look on the far left, that's PlayStation's weekly active users ending September 14th. I've actually made a video where we talked about the more recent one that was October 5th, which still showed that Call of Duty HQ was pretty much in number one spot, holding down the PlayStation community. Now, from 2021's Activision, I said 2021, when Activision's trial actually got out there and some documents and letters were being written to the FTC and to the courts, some stuff did not get redacted properly, and we saw that at the time, PlayStation held a unique 14 million players who played Call of Duty. PlayStation also held about 1 million of those players who played Call of Duty as 100% of their gaming time. They only had the console, and when they fired it up, they basically played Call of Duty. Now, these are just the folk who played online, because again, those other Call of Duty games, you could play a lot of them offline. You could play some of those modes offline too. I know people forget, but this was a very heavy hitter. So you just never really know which Call of Duty game they may be playing. So again, it stands to show that even the game might still be gaining sales of older titles at the end of the day. So with all this in mind, I can safely assume that there is going to be a lot of Call of Duty, copies that are sold. I think that's a safe assumption, don't you think? It is this reality that we've been waiting for to see how PlayStation can even recover from this. I honestly don't think they can. I mean, just think about what happened to Concord this year. How it was an attempt for PlayStation to come into this market and maybe do something in, regards to the live service and, divorce itself from its heavy dependence on Call of Duty. I mean, this was single-handedly the game that was, this was the game that was funding their single-player projects. I mean, I just don't know if anybody realizes that, this is a big problem for them. How they're going to pretty much go ahead and recover from this, to me, I just don't know. I mean, yeah, make some live service games, but in the way things are, I'm not sure that those live service games are really going to pan out to much. I mean, yes, Helldivers did well, but Helldivers and Call of Duty, I mean, it's just not a fair comparison, right? Then you kind of think about, Fair Games coming pretty much soon. What is that going to look like? What is Fair Games going to eventually take into play? Like, how is that going to be distinctive? How is that going to mark anything that, say, console players have not already played or have access to? Is it going to be a free-to-play game? Are they going to try to sell it for $40 like they did with, Concord, and that backfired in a sense? And also, the way the game is actually structured, are people really interested in the Fair Games? Like, that's the first question we got to ask. While they've also announced that they basically, Guerrilla said, oh, we're done with Killzone. Do you know how that makes the core shooter base actually perceive PlayStation in that regard? Because PlayStation needs to understand that its response to live service right now should, number one, possibly start with a first-person shooter of the nature of Call of Duty or Battlefield, like a game like that. And Killzone was the one game, I think, or was one of the games where it had an IP that could be recognized for. Like a hardcore, maybe even something like Tarkov or whatever it is. So at the end of the day, I'm just really surprised that right now, no one wants to say anything about it. I think what they're waiting for is they want this to all blow back. But, the longer they don't say anything, the more the data, will come out. And you know how it is. It's newsworthy. It's press worthy as well from, the Xbox side to get the numbers out to everyone. By and large, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.